Hello, and welcome to the Healing Mama podcast. I'm your host and certified positive discipline parent educator, Danny Bonsignor. Join me for some encouraging conversations surrounding faith, motherhood, and helpful parenting tools for you to view everyday parenting challenges as a means to grow that is respectful to both you and your child. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, and welcome back. This is episode 31 of the Healing Mama podcast, and I'm your host, Danny Bonsignor. Last week, we talked about how to be kind and firm in our parenting, how we can hold boundaries with gentleness just like God does with us. Today, we are building on that by talking about something that really brings kind and firm parenting to life, a loving follow-through. It's one thing to say a boundary, and it's another thing to stick with it, especially when your toddler is whining, your preschooler is melting down, and dinner is burning on the stove. But I want to encourage you. Following through with love builds trust, and it mirrors the heart of God. Toddlers and preschoolers test limits. That's what they do. That's totally normal. They're not trying to be bad. They are trying to learn, can I trust you to mean what you say? And when we follow through on our boundaries with calm consistency, it teaches them that we are safe, that we mean what we say, and that they can rest in the structure that we provide. But when we say no more snacks and then give in 5 minutes later, we accidentally teach them that our words don't really matter. Not because you're a bad mom, but because you're tired and you're human. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being faithful in the small things that lead to the big things. Let's look at what God models for us as the perfect parent. Matthew 5:37, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Jesus is talking about integrity. As moms, that means our words should match our actions, even when it's hard. James 1:17, the Father of lights with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. God doesn't change his mind when we throw a fit. He is steady, he is dependable, and our children need that same steadiness from us. Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go. Training requires repetition. It requires consistency and following through. Just like God is patient with us, we patiently repeat truth and boundaries to our kids. So let's talk about what loving follow-through can actually look like. You tell your toddler we're leaving the park in 5 minutes. They scream, they beg to stay, and you calmly say, I hear you want to stay, and it's time to go now. Then you follow through, even with tears. That is loving consistency. And I know in last week's episode, we talked about a couple ways that you can help remove your child from the park or get your child to leave the park even when they're throwing a fit. That is respectful, that's kind, and firm. Maybe your preschooler asks for another snack, but it's dinner time. We've all been there, especially when you're making food and your child is just whining and complaining that they are so hungry that they can't wait, but you kindly and firmly say, the kitchen is closed until dinner. And they continue to whine and push back. This time, you don't lecture, you just lovingly hold the line. This is a tip I want to include because sometimes the fewer words that you use, you get a better result, and you let your actions do the talking. So another example of this would be if your child takes off their shoes and you want them to put their shoes in the closet, instead of giving them a whole lecture about how they never put their shoes in the closet or how they need to go put their shoes in the closet, you just say, hey babe, shoes. And you point to their shoes, and if they know that their shoes go in the closet, you might be surprised at how they handle this. Or you could say something like, where can you put your shoes? And I know my daughter's always like, oh, in the closet. Like she wasn't leaving her shoes out just to kind of disobey or to not put them where they're supposed to go. She genuinely is a 4-year-old and she thinks like a 4-year-old. And so she just didn't think about putting her shoes in the closet. And so a nice reminder, fewer words, even if you just point to the shoes, that can be really helpful. So it's also important to set boundaries when you're calm and not in the heat of the moment. And I know that that can be really hard. And I know that in the heat of the moment, sometimes it's just you have to fight everything inside of you to not lecture, to not, say something that you're not going to follow through with, say something that you will regret. And so for me, I know personally that this is the time for me to be quiet so that I don't say something that I regret or I don't say something that I don't plan on following through with. And I even tell my daughter, Mommy doesn't have anything nice to say right now, so I'm just going to sit and be quiet until I feel better. I want to give you a challenge for this week, or maybe not even this week. Maybe you just focus on this for the next couple of days, or even today. Sometimes that's the most doable, is to just focus on today. Pick one boundary that you often struggle with. Maybe it's screen time, maybe it's snacks, maybe it's cleaning up. And commit to kindly and calmly following through on it for the next few days. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Write it down, pray over it, and remember, God doesn't expect perfection, He blesses faithfulness. I would like to pray for you today. God, thank you for being steady, unchanging, and always faithful. Help us to be a reflection of your consistency in the way we follow through with our children. Give us strength when we are tired, clarity when we feel unsure, and peace when things don't go as planned. Thank you for your grace that fills every gap. Amen. You've got this, one boundary at a time, one faithful step at a time, and I'll see you next week. Until next time.